A sequence is an infinite list of numbers in a definite order. One of the things that we're looking for in 11.1 is whether or not a sequence converges or diverges. And I've given you examples of each in the previous problems, but I didn't call it converge or diverge. So one of the things we are looking for or looking to determine is whether or not a sequence converges or diverges. So we kind of use those words a little bit in chapter 7, but I probably need to give you a definition of converge and diverge. So converge, a sequence would converge if, as n goes to infinity, the terms of the sequence get closer and closer to a certain number. So a sequence converges if, as n approaches infinity, the terms of the sequence get closer and closer to a certain number. So these are things that you're talking about 50-50 with their limits. As n is approaching infinity, what's happening? So here's an example of one that converges, and it's one that we did a little bit earlier, a few minutes ago. How about this one? 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, 1/16, 1/32, ... Okay, a sub n is 1/2 to the n, and n starting at 1. Now, as n approaches infinity, this sequence is approaching what? 0. This sequence converges to 0. As n is approaching infinity, a sub n, which is 1/2 to the n, is approaching 0. So we say this sequence converges to 0. Now, if a sequence does not converge, then it diverges. If a sequence does not converge, then it diverges. There are all kinds of things that could diverge, but here's one of the examples. I wanted to pull, I don't remember the exact numbers, but let's do the add 4. If I start with 3 and then I add 4, I'm getting something like this. And I think that is the exact one I had done. What about, what's the next term? 23, 27, 31, And the a sub n term was 4n minus 1. Does this sequence approach a particular number as n goes to infinity? No. This sequence diverges. I could say as n approaches infinity, a sub n is also approaching infinity. This sequence diverges. Now, to diverge, it does not have to be going to infinity or negative infinity. Here's another example. I'll draw lines just to separate these two examples. So if I have something like this, 0, negative 1, 0, negative 1, 0, negative 1, this just continues forever. I've had students before say something like this. This sequence converges to negative 1/2. They just took the average of 0 and negative 1. But that's not what's happening here. As n approaches infinity, is this going to approach one particular number? No, this one diverges. This sequence also diverges. Okay.